high performers and people who are trying to outperform each other. Now, how do you change that attitude? Since the students are already being taught from a long time to compete.
Got a point. Yeah,
Even when you're entering a company as a management trainee, you're still competing against other person to reach a higher post. Where do you make a decision? How do you?
Yeah, we got a question when somebody is asking is that throughout your life you have been competing right from the 10th standard. Like in our time we used to compete even before 10th standard. I had a good friend who was the construction company chief. He used to say that in our time everything was shortage. Okay. Since everything was shortage, we used to compete even for food. Many of us would have been stood on the line from the ration stand to get food because in 1962 there was no food available except through the ration stand. Okay. So we used to compete there also how to beat the system, became quite an expert. But your generation became quite an expert to go to various tutorial colleges and beat the system and beat all the entrance exams. So we are all the time beating the system. Right here also we are beating the system. Now he says, I'm going to join an organization to beat the system. That way I can get ahead. Okay, with or without beating the system. How do I collaborate? I think this is very relevant to the kind of issue that you raised, and I will have to take some views from that.
So coming back to the same point what Gavin had mentioned earlier, right in the starting when he had opened this discussion. So it just because you are a high performer doesn't mean that you would get promotion every year. Just because you are a high performer doesn't mean that you will be a superstar always. Because you are competing amongst the same class of people, and you are one amongst the best, and the person needs to still realize that when you are one amongst the best, you rather collaborate and improve and learn from them rather than individually trying to strive to beat everyone, right? As he just now mentioned as well in the previous discussion point, like often high performers, right, after a certain point of time tend to fade away or want to switch the company because they see that the company fails to recognize them after a point of time. That happens because they take up so much of the load on them that it becomes a baggage. And too much of baggage to carry, they will stoop down. And once they stoop down, then they don't like, they start blaming on the system, start blaming on others and stuff, and then eventually either they get into a stage that they have to move out of the team, or they get into a stage that they have to move out of the company to save face, right? So in totality, though we are in a competitive environment, you need to strive, as you cannot relax any given point of time, but that doesn't mean that you need not collaborate, right? In today's world, if you do not collaborate, then there is no way you can beat the competition, because it's always two minds are better than one.
Okay. So the view is given to you is that your competitive advantage really lies in collaboration than your individual. I'll take your view and then go to Professor Animesh.
I'll just like to add on to this. Whether I don't know whether it is good news or bad news, but in most cases when I'm actually discussing the issue of recruitment with consultancies in particular, they say that we don't want whiz kids. We don't want super performers. We want people who can work in teams. And that's why even the team metrics have changed. The performance metrics have now a lot of content which is collaborative in terms of measurement. In fact, I just want to share one illustration. It was for an international NGO that we were doing assessment centers. And one of the measures for the executive position was, can you actually be a person who can lead across India? For that, there's a very common exercise many of you must have done, desert survival. There was one person who was highly prepared and knew all the answers of desert survival. This person became very aggressive and was very sure, I get it. But his aggression went against him. Because aggression showed that you are not actually a team player. So effectively, even the organizations are realizing, and they may not want you just because you are an individual performer. They will look at the team side as well.
Yeah. Then, I think it's very closely related to the humility idea which you brought out.
Yeah, I'm actually amazed that we think about ourselves. The fact is that competition is out there, not within. we're not competing with ourselves inside a company, we're competing against other companies. All right, so that's the idea of, that should be foremost. So in NDTV, for instance, if you are going to, say, next week, Sir Richard Branson is in India, right? Now, I'm absolutely certain there is this huge PR machinery working in the background as to who gets to interview him. Okay? Now, will NDTV get it? Will CNN, IBN get it? Will Times now get it? So, and he's Sir Richard Branson, so there is tremendous interest. But you know what? No matter how big a superstar you are, you can't just call Sir Richard Branson and ask him for an interview. So if you're going to do it, then you've got to work through every channel to get through the right person who could perhaps listen to you and slot you in as one of the interviewers. Okay, so the point I'm trying to make is that it would never be that you can do everything on your own and be recognized for it. And believe me, you can be one, everybody doesn't need to be a superstar. You can still have a brilliant career by being the superstar's manager. Okay? A superstar's manager earns many, many crores. It doesn't have to be the superstar. So so if everybody just wants to be the superstar, I'm sorry, but that will not happen. Everybody doesn't, and everybody doesn't have that kind of intellect, mindset, wherewithal. So you've got to be very aware of your limitations, and I go back again to the point on humility I made earlier. But remember this, and that is also true conversely, and I'm not going to contradict myself, every organization is a political minefield. If you think, ideally, I go there, I work very hard, I'll be recognized, and I'll be the CEO one day, let me tell you, anybody who says that, that's bullshit. It's not going to happen. Because companies these days, because we have in this country a tremendous desire as a nation now to get ahead, that is mirrored in how companies have started to perform. And therefore, you will need to be on your toes all the time. And the head of legal, actually, at NDTV, is no longer with NDTV now. He used to say one very interesting thing. I don't believe it in always, but you should do it. He used to say, "Kaam karo na karo, kaam ka zikr zarur karo." So it's a bit of tom-tomming. So if you've got to indulge in a bit of tom-tomming, yeah, do that. But doesn't mean that you only do tom-tomming. Because then you'll be found out very easily. Okay? So if you can pull wool over 5 eyes, but not every eye. And in this very institute, the PGP coordinator, Mr. Kamath, told me in 1997 when I joined, and being a high performer throughout my life, when I joined TAPME and stars in my eyes, first pop quiz in maths and stats for management, 0, F. So I had almost tears in my eyes. I called my father, I'm going to be a failure. Everything, I'm just dumping this place and I'm coming back to Delhi. I find myself a job in a garment factory. So my dad first said, I'm not going to get you a job in the garment factory. So you got to just stay there. And second, go and talk to this man. So I went to Professor Kamath and I said, listen, I've got a F. He says this F is 3% of your entire course. And you've already made up your mind you're going to fail. That's a harsh view. And second, he said, do you want to be in the top 5 in this batch? I said, well, maybe top 10. Not 5, but top 10. He says that if with your inclination towards maths and stats, you're not going to make it. So you realize that, please, your life will be happier. And you know what? It was for the next 2 years, because I gave up on that, because I knew there were people who were far smarter than I was, and they were anyway going to do it no matter how much I killed myself. So a realization that it may not happen actually made me happier at heart. And there were courses that I did really well at, but it was only because I genuinely enjoyed them. MSM I didn't. So I stumbled my way, maybe a C- or something. But that's good enough For me, at least, it was. I'm not setting this as an example for you. You should work hard, but it sometimes, the inner voice will tell you something, so listen to it from time to time. Almost is right. Almost always is right.
We had a question here.
And there's an entire process of unlearning and relearning relevant things pertaining to our kind of work that takes place. And like Gagan was just mentioning that we tend to sleepwalk to our courses. Don't you think this, if this is a reality, that we are not applying what we are actually learning in the B schools, contribute to this sort of an attitude of sleepwalking to our courses?
Yeah, sure.
Actually, you know what? We compartmentalize everything. So we think, my degree is obtained, I am now a business school graduate, now let's get down to work. That's the day you forget everything you learned. Okay? So the point is, you've got to stop treating your diploma as a diploma. You've got to start thinking of it as something that you will use for the rest of your life. So don't forget what you've learned. You've got to apply it. So sometimes when I get stuck in a concept and I'm not able to understand it, you know, I actually dust off my books of 12 years, 13 years ago, and I go and look it up, and then I refresh it, and it comes back, what you're trying to do. So this education is very relevant. The problem is we compartmentalize it, and you can't do that. And therefore, companies say, yes, and I also say it, what you study is not applicable here. But that's not true. Because, I mean, that's a ridiculous thing to say. So if it is not applicable, then why do they come here and hire? Well, why do they pay so much to hire? They could go anywhere and hire people, right? Why do they come here if they don't value the education? So it's something that you can't resolve easily, but it happens because you forget that you've learned all of this stuff. And you think, abhi sab ho gaya, abhi, this is all Kotler and all somewhere in 30,000 feet, and it's not apply. It does apply. You've got to be able to make that connect. And that is what I meant by saying sleepwalking. So everything has a mirror in the real world. If you're able to do it, then you become successful. If you're not, then you sleepwalked.
Yeah, it's a universal complaint from Harvard to TAPME that the business school education is not relevant in, the only difference is that some Indian companies will complain about TAPME and, the top investment bankers will complain about the Harvard. Therefore, I will take one more view, sir, on this particular issue of the relevance of the education that we give vis-a-vis what you look for in the organization. Yeah.
I can't agree more than what Gagan had just said. I was just about to prepare my answer. He just gave away the same thing, what I was about to tell, right? It is, as he said, it's very relevant to apply what you have learned. And that's where we say there is a huge disconnect. People tend to forget that. And one more thing is, you tend to look at your past behavior to predict your future. If you are not done well, you have not learned well, then there is no way you will apply them also well in your future. So there is no way if you think that you don't need to study and you will do well in your corporate career, then that is completely a false alarm for you. You need to wake up because you need to study, you need to know the concepts in depth, and then only you will be able to apply them in future. And coming back to the second point, the previous point what Gagan had mentioned, right, regarding the organizational politics. So I keep telling my team, I have a pretty huge team, and they often complain that, we are not recognized, we have not recognized for work what we put in. There are endless hours they put in at work. Even as I'm telling you, sitting here, my team is working there in Bangalore, trying to get people on board and stuff like that for our project execution. So I keep telling them only one thing, right, which I always learn from my professor. Everywhere, in every walk of life, right, you need to be a selfish person. So what I mean by it's not selfish, you need to be a fish which will sell, right? If you don't sell, then you are no good. You'll just rot in there.
That's interesting. We'll take one more question from the audience if you have. Anyone? Okay. If not, I want to ask the panelist one question. high performance can take the organization they can make organizations a hostage at times. Is that true, according to you? High performers like you, who want to just break away and have a free reign, can make organizations a hostage sometimes.
I'll just pick that up because, I mean, I think I live that every day. In fact, I lived that a minute ago when one of these high performers called. And if I hadn't taken that call, it would be hell for me on Monday. So I'm sorry, I have to apologize. I was being rude, but that was Vikram Chandra on the phone. So I've got to take his call. So the point I'm trying to make is, if they don't take the companies hostage, then they take individuals hostage for sure. And I'm an example of that. So the fact of the matter is that some of us must realize what is our purpose. In a place like NDTV or any other company, where there is a reliance on widely acknowledged high performers, the system has to be set up to support them. Because that is the way the business works. That is the way the business gets its value. I'll give you an example. One day, Prannoy had an epiphany that he could run 40 projectors like this one in parallel and create a living scenery at the back of the stage, like this, like over here, in a hemisphere, 40 projectors in parallel. He was told it cannot be done, ridiculous. He went out of the country and got this technology, gave it to the chief technology officer and said, please run it, thank you very much. This is what high performers do, and this is the point I've made about resourcefulness. There's no way they would say this cannot be done. And if your company is not set up to cater to them, then yes, you will find yourself being held hostage, because you will be constantly battling them, battling their high expectations. But the fact is, when they deliver, and when you become a high performer, and you will know what you've delivered is so beautiful and so endearing that you will feel proud of it. And you're proud that you have Stockholm Syndrome, that you love your kidnapper. Yeah, so that's what the thing is. But if you believe that you're also, if everyone believes that they're also as good as the kidnapper or the high performer, then the whole setup will fail. So you have to realize what your meaning or what your place is in the system, and only then can this be successful. But yes, there is a hostage drama that plays out every day.
What about your experiences?
In our world, it doesn't happen like that. We do not let any high performer dictate the terms to the organization, definitely. So we always believe that, talent we would get somehow. The attitude needs to be right.
Yeah. Okay. What's your view, Animesh, on this, the holding of hostages?
Actually, I would say that both the things apply from whatever, as an academician, what my experience is. What Gagan says actually applies to NDTV could apply to MTV. Very true for them, because you have high performers and they are responsible for your TRPs. The other is also true, that organization becomes more important than the individual. I mean, one of the classic examples many of you must have studied was Morgan Stanley. One point of time, it realized it's going to be one firm. It's not that consultants and partners are going to run it the way they want to. And for that, they actually had to fire or maybe rein in many of the high performers. It's all about the organizational culture and what the organizational goals are. But yes, there will be certain category of organizations which cannot go for such a team system. When it comes to creativity, there will always be those organizations where high performers will have to be managed and a system will have to be organized around them. And of course, there will be companies which are very clear. It's a client-based project, it's a very high demand, and we have to be collaborative. So I think both the things will exist according to the cultural factors and of course the business factors.
Thank you very much. A session of this nature, of course, can go on and on. For want of time, I would like to sum up. I think I want to convey to the audience only 3 important things. Collaboration is the competitive advantage in today's world. And the second is you must craft yourself holistically in order to collaborate. And third, humble yourself to be a superstar. I will repeat those 3 points which I picked up from them prominently. Collaboration is the competitive advantage for you as an individual. You must craft yourself holistically to collaborate. And thirdly, humble yourself to be a superstar. With this, I would like to thank my panelists, Mr. Gagan, Vishnu, and Animesh, for spending their valuable time, the audience for listening. I'm sure it would have given you very great new insight on how organization work and the kind of first step when you take. It also gave you an insight to those who are from the first year and also those who are in the second year. There's a lot that you can do yourself without necessarily depending upon either the faculty or the business organizations, right? Thank you very much. Once again, thank you very much to the panelists and the audience, and have a nice day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for moderating this event and bringing out the most from our panel. It was surely insightful. I would also like to thank our speakers, Mr. Gagan Bhargava, Mr. Vishnu, and Professor Animesh Bahadur for sharing their valuable insights. Thank you all for being wonderful audience today and being inquisitive. Wish you a good day ahead. Thank you.